Crypto holders, prepare for a massive week. We are going to see some crazy volatility, either for the positive or perhaps the negative. We really don't know at this point. There are so many moving pieces happening this week alone. I want to bring them to your attention. So if you see the market move either to the positive or the negative, you will have the proper response to it and not react to it. So in this video, we're going to talk about a post from U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent regarding the conflict in the Middle East. And then we're also going to tie into some new announcements around the Treasury and what they are doing in the bond market. Then we will move into some other stories coming from Japan. Then we'll move into some new announcements from XRP as well, and address a rumor or a story going around the XRP community that isn't truly accurate the way it's being presented. You need to be aware of that, so we will definitely discuss that. And then we will also discuss what is happening in Jackson Hole, Wyoming on August 27th through the 29th. Again, this is a major meeting you need to be aware of because this all does tie together. So let's go ahead and get into it, guys. This first post will be coming from U.S. Treasury Scott Bessent. Check it out with me here, guys. Read along here. From U.S. Treasury Scott Bessent. President of the United States has dismantled its opposing military capabilities, destroyed nearly 100% of its military factories, and buried its nuclear program. But this is the part I wanted you to read. We are now entering the endgame. At dawn begins a economic D-Day, the single greatest financial offensive ever marshaled against an adversary. As we roll on, I'm going to skip this piece. I want you to read this piece here, though. The president has created the conditions to leverage every agency, every authority, and action many assumed we would never summon. Our objective is to sever every economic lifeline that has sustains the tyrannical regime under Tehran stands alone. As we keep reading on what's going on, this is from the macro paper. It says, big crash. Iranian rial just crashed to a record low of $2.02 million against the USD. You are a billionaire in Iran if you have just $495 today. So we can see what's happening here. And as we keep rolling on, this came out as well on August 24th. Treasury Secretary Bessent has called an emergency press conference for today at 2 p.m. And this comes out today, the 24th, Monday, August. So this is today. If you're watching this as this releases, this will be taking place at the same time. He is expected to announce historic economic action against Iran. And again, that quote we just read, be ready, market could get volatile. This is, I can't stress enough, guys, because as we keep reading, check this out. From Coin Bureau, breaking, Bessent to unleash a $1 trillion war chest to rescue the U.S. bond market. That is 250x the Treasury's new $4 billion for a single long-term bond buyback operation. According to CNBC, the Treasury could tap its nearly $1 trillion Treasury general account to fund expanded bond buybacks. This move could lift bond prices and push long-term yields lower without requiring the Fed to intervene. We're seeing that the U.S. Treasury is always bypassing the Fed. It's interesting that they're doing that. Let's keep reading, though. This comes after the Treasury doubled buybacks from $2 billion to at least $4 billion per operation. Let's keep rolling down. But the relief quickly faded and the 30-year yield returned around 5.25%, showing that far more support may be needed. Drawing down Treasury cash could also inject major liquidity into markets, potentially benefiting stocks and crypto. Read that again. Drawing down Treasury cash could also inject major liquidity into markets, potentially benefiting stocks and crypto. The full $1 trillion has not been committed, but it represents the Treasury's potential firepower. The bond market just learned how big Bessent's bazooka could be. So if you do follow me on X or you follow me on YouTube, you're subscribed, what have you, you've seen my post through this weekend where I was calling out the Rial was nearly zero versus the US dollar, and now we're seeing that that's what the case is, right? There's no point in saying it's any equal to that. And then we're looking at the US Treasury, Scott Bessent, coming out saying that there is no more funding available for that opposing party, right? I'm trying to be careful because the platform here. Then we're looking at the U.S. Treasury bond market. They're trying to get in, they're trying to settle that, pump more money into the market. And the masses don't realize our market, our economies, they're crashing right now. Although it looks good, that's not a good sign. Like the Treasury pumping cash into the market is never a good sign, right? To save themselves. And that's what we're seeing here. But we've also seen that in Japan and Korea. We're seeing this happening all around the world. Currently, Canada is having some struggles as well. So let's keep going. Let's put this together, what's going on with Japan, because this is an exciting news as well as all this is happening. So check this out from Coin Bureau with me, read along with me. It says Japan officially ends its 4-year crypto freeze. Nomura-backed Laser Digital just won Japan's first new crypto exchange license in 4 years. It will initially supply liquidity to licensed local crypto firms before expanding into institutional trading. They always seem to go first, and then the rest of the retail comes in. We see this in America as well. Keep that in mind. This comes after Japan moved to treat crypto as a financial product, paving the way for possible ETFs and tax reforms. 79% of Japanese institutions surveyed plan to buy within 3 years. That's that 30-30 mark we keep talking about, guys. They're telling you right in front of your face here every time. And this is going to be about the Laser Digital we just spoke about. So check this out. As we roll down and we learn more about this, this is the piece I want you to read here. This is important here. So according to the Financial Services Agency list of registered cryptocurrency exchange operators, the company listed cryptocurrency handling sections includes 6 cryptocurrencies: Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, and Shiba Inu. So as we watch all this, we're putting this together, we're witnessing Japan, Korea, and United States jump on board with cryptocurrencies. And those 3 countries alone, you're looking at them being highly involved with Ripple, XRP, and the XRP Ledger. I know there's a lot of people still doubting XRP in the market, which I fully understand, just because the price action has not been what people expected, right? For years, you've heard thousands of dollars and this is going to go crazy, and it hasn't happened yet. So I get that. But it's also important to understand that major players in the economy are moving to this chain, whether or not you think it's going to make a difference or not. So we do know it has that validity behind it either way. And it's something that's worth watching, because you don't want to miss out because you got fudded out, right? So it's important to keep that open mind and make sure you're not just dismissing something just because it hasn't performed the way you wanted to in the time frame that you wanted to, because this isn't how this works. That's why education is super important. And also what's super important is hitting that like button, sharing with a friend, and subscribing if you do like this kind of content where we provide just facts, no hopium, and give you a different way to look at the crypto market. So let's go ahead and get into the next story, guys. You like that segue? Let's go ahead and get to the next story. This is going to be the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas. This is a meeting happening in Jackson Hole. Check this out. This is something you want to put on your calendar. This is something you want to be aware of, because it's happening after all these stories we just read with the U.S. Treasury, with Japan, with Korea, with China, by the way. We have President Xi Jinping. He will be in America meeting with the United States President September 24th to discuss AI and digital payments and agentic payments. Again, is this timing perfect as we're seeing a potential cool off with the conflict happening in the Middle East? I won't get too much more into that, but think about the perfect timing of all this. Now let's look at this Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas Symposium. Check this out, guys. Very long. I'm not going to go too much into it, but it says about the Jackson Hole Economic Policy Symposium. And we wrote them down here. The Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City's Economic Policy Symposium in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, is one of the longest standing central banking conferences in the world. The event brings together economists, financial market participants, academics, U.S. government representatives, and news and media to discuss long-term policy issues of mutual concern. But this is the attendees of the Jackson Hole meeting symposium here. It says, to foster the open discussion, the symposium is known for attendees are selected based on each year's topic. In a typical year, around 120 people attend. Attendees consist of central banks. Kevin Warsh is giving a speech on the 28th of August. Keep this in mind. Federal Reserve System representatives, academics, journalists, financial industry leaders, government officials, they are all going to be in the same room discussing the new financial policies coming up, guys. Now, I've been trying to find I was trying to find an agenda that breaks it down, who was speaking, what time, and all those things about what. I could not find that. So maybe if you guys can find it, let people know down in the comments so people can be aware, because in this channel, we definitely should be a community to help one each other out. We should work together to put the pieces of the puzzle together, right? Because if we have 100 eyes solving the one problem, then we are going to be more successful at this. And thinking about that kind of spirit of working together and sharing information, let's move into the next XRP stories. And this is where we're going to address some new exciting information. Also, we're going to address some things that have been going around, even through some bigger channels, that you need to be aware of, and make sure you understand this isn't a new news source that may have come across that way that could perhaps get you excited. Let's go ahead and get into it. We'll talk about it when we're done with that. Let's get into it, guys. Check it out. From BSCN, this is exciting here. JPMorgan looks set for a new record on the XRP Ledger. JPMorgan Chase & Co. is approaching a record-breaking $1 trillion market capitalization mark as its corporate digital assets presence continues to grow on the Ripple XRP Ledger. The bank's Connexes unit has settled cross-border transactions for tokenized U.S. Treasuries in just 5 seconds, thanks to carefully designed integrations between Ripple and MasterCard infrastructures. As it scales, JPM is also tokenizing QQQ and SPY for production trading with DTCC. If you can just bring this up right quick, you can see the price of each one of these here and who they are, so you know who they are. Pretty exciting stuff, guys. And parallel, the company's WJPM token remains liquid 24/7 on a DEX built on the XRP Ledger. Again, straight up in front of you guys, the same bank that told you to get out of crypto, it's a scam. The same people that told you they're not going to allow their employees to be a part of this, now look at them. But now let's address the thing that everybody's been talking about. This has been circulating. Maybe you have seen it, maybe you have seen it. Just in case, I'm going to get it in front of you guys. This is coming from All In Crypto. Very much respect this Rupert. Rupert is amazing. I suggest you follow him. Amazing reporter / analyst, right? But this is something to pay attention to. This is something you're going to see coming from a lot of people, which was XRP payments connected with FedNow. Volante now lets banks using FedNow connects with Ripple's payments technology, bridging Ripple closer to everyday U.S. banking systems. That means XRP infrastructure is moving closer to the system banks already use every day. So you might say, well, yes, that is true. That is happening. So what's the problem here? Well, the problem isn't necessarily the information itself, but it's being almost circulated around a lot of channels. And again, no fault to one person that's doing it. I don't think it's being done maliciously or misleading for any reasons. I think it's just getting things going as a reminder. But it's important for people that are new in this space to understand this is not new, so don't go freak out and rush into the market. That's the bigger thing here, is make sure you are staying educated on this stuff, and make sure you're not just hearing news stories and you're rushing out without validating those news sources, validating that this is actually happening, and doing the proper research before you make an investment. Because at the end of the day, this is your money, right? You can't rely on any news sources or any kind of influencers that you respect or like. Even if, like myself, I don't want you to take my opinion or my word on anything. That's why I always put my resources down in the video description, because I want you to use that and go educate yourself. Because if you're not already doing that, once you start to understand the value and how exciting that is, you will have more conviction in the way you invest and how you invest and what you invest. And your spending habits will also change because you will see the value of things differently. So let's get into what I'm going to further elaborate on with this FedNow XRP thing, so you have a better picture of it, just in case for the people that are new. Check this out, coming from Mr. Man. We've known about the connection for years. Volante and XRP enabled FedNow. And again, this is also well insider, right? Huge channel, guys. They have 674,000 followers. Again, great source, but still passing on old information. This is actually old information. And let's look over here from Mr. Coleman, and he breaks this down very well. XRP rumor check. There's a lot of flying around right now. So here's what's actually holds up. The FedNow story is being overstated. Volante has had Ripple XRP settlement capabilities for a year, and Volante has also connects banks to FedNow. Those are separate capabilities on the same middleware. There's no Federal Reserve announcement adopting XRP, no evidence that XRP is running through FedNow itself, and nothing new was announced this week. The U.S. government buying XRP for a strategic reserve or using it as a deal with the national debt is also unconfirmed. J.D. Vance was asked about crypto and the debt. He didn't announce a government XRP acquisition plan. Currently, policy allows Bitcoin reserves and a broader digital asset stockpile built from forfeited assets. There's no confirmed open market government buy-in program for XRP, no confirmed Ripple escrow redistribution plan, and no XRP debt payoff mechanism. Apple buying $3.5 billion in XRP isn't confirmed. The Tom Lee millionaires in 90 days, quote, doesn't have verified sources. 30,000 XRP, fixed value claims, and complete SWIFT replacements are speculation. Here is what is real. RLUSD has crossed $2 billion in market cap with substantial amount on the XRP Ledger. Ripple Prime has completed a $275 million senior notes offering and received investing grade BBB rating from KBRA. Spot XRP ETF saw roughly $40 million in net inflows during the recent week. Analytics firms reported large holder cohorts accumulating hundreds of millions of XRP during recent move, but that doesn't identify specific institutions or prove intent. The White House meeting involving Brad Garlinghouse happened, and the Clarity Act is moving through the legislation process. It hasn't passed or been signed into law. There's plenty happening around XRP and XRP Ledger without turning every development into government adoption, Federal Reserve integration, and secret debt plan. So when we put all this together, let's go back to what he was just saying. Like all these things that are going on, this is where crypto gets very important. We understand that there's a lot of rumors happening out there. There's a lot of people putting connecting dots, kind of making assumptions, kind of saying this could be a possibility. And I do that myself. And I hope that I do a good enough job when I say, this is just my opinion, or this is what I think. Wouldn't it be interesting? I try to throw those things in there. So if I don't think it's truly facts and I can't prove it, I don't want to spread that as if it were, because I do a lot of connecting the dots myself, but I do try to make the distinction when announcing that they are completely separate. This is just me thinking out loud. And I think Mr. McCollum here definitely broke that down well. So again, education in this space is everything. So there's going to be people that run out on this FedNow thing thinking this is exciting. The government's buying it up. They're going to put a lot of their money in it that they don't have, and they're going to hurt themselves because these aren't validated sources yet. Could it be true one day? Sure. But is it true now? No. So I hope you understand the difference. I hope you enjoyed something in this video, guys. Again, if you did, hit that like button. Consider subscribing to the channel. We would love to have you on board. And again, before I let you guys go, take care of yourself, take care of the people around you, and become the change that you want to see in this world. I'll catch you guys on the next one.